I'll spare you those accounting stories, I think, but thanks for the intro, Al, and thank you very much to Brown Bread for inviting me to speak tonight. It really is a privilege, so thank you. I can stand here and happily say that I am very, very proud that I work for a company that celebrates diversity and inclusiveness, one that encourages working fathers to prioritise parenthood. So about a year ago, I took some leave from work when my daughter, Elodie, was 9 months old, and took 3 months off work and became the full-time stay-at-home dad while my wife, Kirsty, went back to work. And this was made possible by a new policy brought in by EY that allowed all mothers and fathers 3 months fully paid to take off and spend time with the family, which is absolutely outstanding, and I truly am really fortunate for the ability to do that. So how did it go? Bloody interesting, actually. So day one started off well. I had the program. I had to be at the library at 10, and we had to have the snacks and the water, and all the young dads in the room will know how this all works. Of course, you can't be in the car when the baby's not far from nap time, because you don't want that to happen. And you've got to be home to make sure the house is tidy and the dinner's cooked and everything else, everything that Kirsty, my wife, would be otherwise taken care of. So it was a huge challenge, but I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed the bond that I created with my daughter throughout that time. And it's a bond that continues on now through our relationship. She's almost 2 now, and in fact I had my first day off last week since that time. Had another day off with her because she was a bit unwell. And I thought, man, this is hard work, and it really is. But listen, I just wanted to talk about some of the perceptions around it, because it is quite an interesting topic, and not many people have done it. I was one of the first people within the New Zealand firm of EY to take that leave. I spoke to a few people at the very outset, and sort of the older generation, and the resounding feedback were things such as, are you sure you know what you're doing? And what is this going to mean for your career? These sorts of things, which I thought were really quite interesting to hear. So I did a fair bit of reading. I read lots of literature out of Canada and the US and Scandinavia, just around the benefits that can be derived from spending some time as a father with the children. And I became quite convinced by it all, really. And I guess the main reason as to why I actually did take the time off from work and the time out from my career was that it was something that was really, really pushed by EY. In fact, we had our CEO from Oceania come across and told me personally how important it was that fathers took this leave, because it wasn't only good for fathers and the families and everything else, but it was actually really, really good for the business. Got people back in after that leave, and they felt refreshed, and they could really drive the business forward. And I've experienced that motivation even more so in the last sort of year that I've been back. So I guess who wins? Who wins from having that time off? First of all, my wife Kirsty, she went back to work 3 days a week. She won because she got to go to work and not worry about the daycare drop-off and the pick-up and everything else, so that was fantastic for her. I won because I got a chance to spend some time with my daughter, and not many people get that opportunity for an extended period of time. As I said before, I think both of our workplaces won, because both of us felt refreshed when we were at work. We felt supported. We felt like we could give everything that we had to our employment. But really, I think the main beneficiary here, and she doesn't know it yet, is my daughter, Elodie. The bond that we had and that we grew was really powerful, I think, and as I said, she won't really understand that for many years to come, but we do continue to build up on that, and I do look forward to sharing stories and photos with her when she's a bit older. I firmly believe that to achieve society's gender equality goals, we must foster an environment where the idea of traditional roles for parenting and working is reconstructed. And I think it starts with people like in this room. Fingers crossed, by the time our youngest children are in the workforce, a strive towards gender equality is no longer a utopian dream, but is the reality that we live in. And now just a couple of quick stats on people that are actually taking parental leave. So in New Zealand, you'll all be aware that you can have parental leave under the government regime that allows mothers or fathers time off from work. At the moment, of all those people that are taking leave, only 1% are men, and that's a very small number. Compare that to Sweden, where of all fathers, all men that become fathers, 75% of those men take parental leave. So that's quite an interesting statistic. So why is it important for workplaces to be progressive? Studies have shown that the involvement of dads in parental care leads to a more engaged workforce and a closure of the gender pay gap. Now, a lot of companies in New Zealand are already offering significant support to fathers. ANZ, Air New Zealand, Vodafone, Spark, Tonkin and Taylor, Fonterra, to name a few. Now, I did want to be a little bit cautious here because I appreciate that these are all large organisations and there'll be many small business owners in the room, and I appreciate that it's just simply not feasible to give somebody 3 months of paid leave, and it's a bit rich for me to stand up here and tell you that you all should. But I think we should just think about the fact that it's not actually about having somebody being paid to be off. It's about the flexibility for fathers. It's about thinking about a way in which you can provide support to fathers in a way that matters to them. So it might be that a father wants to, on a Wednesday, go and have the swimming lesson with the child, or take an hour off in the afternoon to do the daycare pickup. So there are other ways which we can think about how we can support fathers in those roles. So probably a bit out of time, but just a few key takeaways before I finish up. First of all, what we're seeing is that the workplace for males and females is rapidly changing. Many organisations are now making strategic decisions based on gender equality. It is now well recognised and celebrated that diversity of opinions drives success in business. Secondly, the workforce is changing. Businesses need to keep up with the rapid pace of change and be ready to adapt to new ways of working and new working expectations of young people. And lastly, flexibility for working fathers supports women to continue to focus on their careers, which will lead to an increase in females in leadership positions and an exponential increase in the success of Canterbury and New Zealand businesses. But above all else, the example that we set for our children regarding gender equality in relationships, in the home environment, and in the workplace is critical to the success of positive societal change. I'd like to thank you very much for listening tonight and enjoy the rest of your evening.